Hey, Sean, excited to have you on the show.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks so much for welcoming me. I think it's a great pleasure to be on this platform, which I've watched quite a bit in the past. It's a great job that you're doing for the ecosystem, getting the voice out for many of the communities around here. It's definitely a very worthy job that you're doing.
Awesome. And I'm excited to dive into the NUS, the ecosystem, and what it means for Southeast Asia. Could you introduce yourself, Sean?
Yes. So my name is Sean, and I'm currently the chairman of NUS Alumni Ventures. So it's a alumni network where we try to connect the NUS alumni to businesses in Southeast Asia for business matching opportunities, which can include either partnerships or investments. So this was something that started in 2020, and the main purpose was really to help build this network of alumni, in the sense trying to emulate what Stanford Angels did very well and trying to bring an element of that into the Singapore ecosystem. And what better than NUS, which is the oldest organization here as well.
What were you like at NUS? Why did you start out at NUS Alumni Ventures in that time frame as well?
Yes. So I think I joined NAV back in 2021. I was also freshly graduated at that time. And I saw NAV as actually a way for me to improve my networking skills. I was a very typical engineering student in the past. I was studying biomedical engineering, and so I am very far off away from the investment ecosystem in any form or sense. But I think from very early on in year three, I decided that it was important to actually cultivate some soft skills in this area. And at that time, I was just attracted to join a alumni community, which was a little bit more business centric in general. And so actually, I started from the bottom. It was actually started by 13 people from NES that were current students to emulate what the Stanford Angels were creating. And for me, I actually was just trying to create a division whereby we help to do more mentorship access for startups in Singapore to the alumni. And one day I was just asked by the previous chairman to try to lead it instead. So I think since then I've ran it for about 3 years, and it's been a very rewarding journey.
A lot of people are curious about why NUS. Is NUS a good hub for startups? What's going on here?
With NUS being the oldest academic institution here, so I think naturally it's a vibe, it's a hub for all things entrepreneur. A lot of things start as a seed from NUS, being one of the foremost institutions in science or social science or business engineering. And I think that there are many great things the government has given to our institutions here to really boost the R&D capabilities. And we have many top professors here who are doing great stuff. They are creating many technologies that actually we have many of our other peers in other countries who are also taking a deep dive into them. So many things have originated from here. Perhaps it's a pity that not so many have also been commercialized from here, which I think NUS has been trying to address quite a bit with GRIP. And I think we have also seen more announcements recently from Mensora in terms of trying to really boost the deep tech ecosystem here. But I think in general, there has been a lot of support given by NUS. And in turn, we are only seeing the fruits of it bit by bit. It's definitely not at all fully seen yet. And hopefully we can get to doing more of that. And of course, NEV is only a very small subset. Where we come in is really to provide, hopefully, something that can help these pre-seed founders at a very early stage. So whenever there is a company from Southeast Asia who wants to be on our platform, of course, with alumni, some people think that they go to them for angel investing. Obviously, the business angels landscape here is very different. And in any case, many of our angels are also not exactly investment executives themselves. A lot of them come from many different backgrounds in MNCs or SMEs. So they could be looking to diversify their portfolio, but not necessarily always in investments. And if you can get a partnership out of that, actually it'll be very much more rewarding, I would say, for the business as opposed to investment. So this is what NEV wants to do in its very own small way to help the ecosystem in general, to provide these links, which we feel the alumni community can be activated upon. And I'm quite glad that at least this is a philosophy that is shared with one peer group that I'm working very closely, the Stanford Angels Asia community as well. And hopefully we could see more of this replicated in NTU or SMU even.
So why are there so many NUS alumni that are represented in like startup founders in Southeast Asia? I think there was PatSnap that was co-founded by the NUS alumni Jeffrey Tiong and Guang Tian. Then there was Carousell, obviously, by the NOC alumni for Siu Rui, Lucas, and Marcus Tan.
I believe this goes to show that NUS have extremely strong academic curriculum. First, they have great brains, and NUS attracted these great brains to study here. And at the same time, I believe that there has been a dynamic culture here at the very least. There are lots of opportunities given to encourage entrepreneurship. NOC, NUS Overseas College, has been a predominant propeller, a launchpad for many of these outstanding startup founders. And I believe it will continue to be, and even with the NOC program as well. Many of the research institutes here are also doing great work in terms of generating high quality research. Maybe they need more of a push other than NOC or CRIP to eventually conduct any commercialization work. But I think at the very least, what we need is to build a culture first, right? Because honestly, when you look at it from a business angels landscape, what we have here is very different from America. Whereas we see many of these founders from NOC and NUS coming up, they have not exactly IPO or exited those companies. And in that sense, many of the employees are also not now in the position to actually fully try to activate the ecosystem through their own small ways. They could also be that one individual trying to conduct any partnership or investment links to help pre-seed companies. But yet, I think in general, when you have a much more dynamic ecosystem than in America, then you have to recognize that what's different is we are now only at the precipice. We still need a little bit more time for more success stories to come out. And what these current founders are doing is already highly good. And so definitely, I hope that NUS can keep producing more so that we can keep getting more of these companies. And hopefully we can see the trickle-down effect soon.
So you mentioned that it was still at the precipice, it was still early. Can you talk to me about how you're seeing the landscape?
I see. I believe that Singapore in Southeast Asia has been very strong in terms of attracting a lot of venture capital funding and as well helping a lot of startups to raise capital. Of course, this is not really replicated in other of our neighbors. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. Our ecosystems are all at different stages. But even with what Singapore has done, it's still very different, right? Because we still don't have the same dynamism as with the American ecosystem. So one thing I like to actually highlight a difference is in the business angels landscape. Let's say there's this statistic that has been going on that by 2030, you could start to see OpenAI's members, some of their employees, not even management levels, but they could be significant angel investors in as many as 30 startups by 2030, even though now it's still a little bit early. And this could also be easily extended to others that are working on high technology companies in the US. And why is this significant is because if we look at previous early employees who work in Uber or Snowflake, Lyft, so on and so forth, right? So many of these exited early employees who cash in on their stock options later use that money to revitalize the ecosystem through angel investing. And then many of them are not even doing it for fun. Some of them do join in for the fun, but a lot of them have seen firsthand the success that the angels have done in value adding. And then from there, that's when you see that with Singapore it's a bit different because we're that kind of demographic now. A lot of our business angels are actually ex-founders or rich oldies, bankers, consultants, or lawyers who are recycling their high income in the past. But as a result of that, it's a very different mindset. And Singapore is still definitely at the precipice because although we have many things in hand, a lot of things provided well by the government, but there still needs to be a more individual element to really push the ecosystem much further. And this is where I see us trying to bridge the gap in the next 5 years. Hopefully, NEV can be that small platform to help enable it. I'm always aiming small and modestly, but I would definitely love to be a part of a culture change in this sense to really activate the ecosystem here.
So explain to me how NAV works.
Yes. NEV, we are unique in the sense that we provide value to actually two kinds of communities. So firstly, there's the alumni community, whereby we are gathering alumni who are keen to actually find NEV for purposes in terms of finding new companies to work with or even to diversify. So that's the first one, and that's our main proposition. But yet at the same time, people have also asked me, how do we actually get so many startups to refer to this alumni community? And we are quite active actually. We do 4 events every year, interspersed with smaller networking events. And this is where we also have a good power, which is we work with students currently in NUS, be it undergrads, graduates, or PhDs, to actually, we teach them how to actually do investment analysis as well as DD. It's just all of a controlled environment to educate them. But at the same time, this has actually been quite valuable for them in terms of securing internships. So we worked out the curriculum very early on. We improved it alongside the students, and so far the results have spoke for itself. Many of our members have been getting good feedback, getting good reviews. And in general, that is just a first layer check to recommend. And then if let's say anything goes further, that is not what NEV does. NEV is just a facilitator, a matchmaking platform, but a matchmaking platform that value adds to 2 different communities.
Great. Can you explain to me exactly what type of startups does NAV invest in?
I would like to caution here that NEV is not really an investment firm. So for us, we are more of a, if you want to put it loosely, we are still considered an angel network in some sense. But I do like to call us more of an alumni network. And I think it's also going to preferences of our community. I would love to actually put on more deep tech startups, but that is not really the expertise of many people here. And so we do put on companies who are more SaaS related, platform technologies, internet technologies, IoT, and also B2C, B2B companies. So I would say more general tech and not really too much on the deep tech side, unfortunately. But hopefully, as we keep growing and bring in the right people with the expertise, we can be more welcoming to other sectors.
What are some of the things you learned from running NAV over time? Because it's been quite some time. What are the good points? What are the hard points?
I see. I guess the hard point is that we're trying to actually run this huge community because we have, although our alumni community is a little bit small, it's about 150, but then there's also a group of students that we need to run, and it's 2 different kind of mindsets to actually try to navigate. And as much as possible, so we are trying to actually grow the network, and so that's why we do a lot of cross-pollination events. And every now and then, we are actually receiving lots of interest from other non-alumni. So I do have even a small group that I create for non-alumni who are interested in what we do and who support us very well. So I think that as the size kind of grew, it became a new skill to learn how to manage this large population of people, which honestly I've not had the experience before, because at least in school in the past, I never did join a club to manage one big group of students or people in general. And normally when people are coming, even if it's something for free, to keep them engaged is something of a challenge that I saw that I needed to. And that's why even with all of the activities that we do, we are always thinking, how can we keep creating content or something that we can use to keep engaging these people? To be very fair, many people already think that we are doing very well, because not many people wants to actually take on the role of doing about 10 events every year. It's honestly quite taxing, and we have to do it by ourselves as well. But I think in general, even this hard point has been the best point that happened, because it really built a passion in me to help connect people. It built a passion in me to try to help people to navigate landscapes. I hope that what I've done with NEV has been a good reference to help people to curate or find information. We are not exactly helping out with the outreach, like we will not literally say A to B and then B to Z, we will help you to do it. I'm quite happy that we can just help you to get A to B, and if possible, the A to B is a targeted, focused, quality connection. Then that is something that I am very passionate to help you do, because actually it's not an easy job to do. Sometimes there's too much noise, right? So helping people to navigate the voice is actually already a good job in itself.
So what do you think about all these other NUS kind of entrepreneurship programs, right? There's the NUS NOC program, right? The Overseas Colleges program for internships for students. Do you think those are helpful in helping with the entrepreneurship system?
Oh, no, I definitely think that it's a very good module that they did. If you ask me, I'm actually a bit chiffed that I didn't myself fully participate in the NOC program. I was part of the COVID batch, so I was actually a little bit unfortunate. But even in my engineering course, I was actually taking out this degree, a double degree called Innovation and Design course, which is actually teaching you about venture creation. And I think that venture creation was what initially sparked my thought that I might be an engineer, but I do think that I should learn to build some soft skills. It made me aware that I needed to build it, even if in the past I might have always not looked at it. And so I think that entrepreneurship itself is actually a very fruitful pursuit. It may lead to something, it may not lead to anything, but if it leads to a lot of self-discovery that can help you in any form, shape it may be, I believe that it can help to open the mindset significantly. And I credit at least my initial foray into learning what exactly entrepreneurship meant as the basis for why eventually I moved into joining NAV, agreeing to lead it, agreeing to lead the massive community. Not so massive now, but might grow a lot more than I might want to manage. And then actually trying to work on a project that grew from my work in NAV. Yeah.
How should people reach out to NAV?
Like I said, we do plenty of events. And at the same time, actually, we do try to work with many partners. So we have worked with partners like Wise, A Cloud. Then we also work with other angel groups like La French Tech Syndicate, Inside Angels Angel, Bansi, Angel Central, Angel School. Actually, we do a lot of cross-pollination events for people to discover us. But if you'd like to reach out to us, we are always available on our website or LinkedIn to be contacted. And always happy to talk to any alumni who wants a coffee and wants to find out more about what we do. I think we put ourselves out enough to be discovered and very happy to always engage when contacted.
I think it's also been interesting to see kind of NUS work on projects like Block 71. Do you see a lot of flows between those students and the Block 71 community?
Definitely. I think that what we do here with the students is actually also part of driving that flow. Whereas maybe Block 71 and NOC, they are more entrepreneurship driven, right? And for us, we do seem to be catering to a group of students who are more interested in investments. But I think that just gaining the insight into startups in general helps them to build a curiosity that can get them interested in pursuing these ventures. And we also work with Block 71 quite a bit. We have held events there. We have also featured Block 71 startups in our events. And we have actually seen more students, they may have gotten internships in investment firms, but when they actually did their full-time jobs, it was something else. Sometimes related to startups, sometimes working in MNC. But in general, they actually appreciated the insight. And I do know a couple that after doing their mandatory investment internship, they actually went to work with a startup free of charge just to understand how it works. And so I believe that our role here in Block 71, NAV, NES, NOC meant to be foundational seeds to help shape the students' thinking. And eventually, if this can help them to be more interested in the entrepreneurship side of things, this is something that we're already very happy to help.
Could you share about a time that you personally have been brave?
Yes, I think this one is very unrelated to my NAV work. But then before I joined NAV, I was actually working part-time for a Chinese accelerator, which was GE's GIA partner. And I think at that time, I took that job because I was quite interested to understand the Chinese ecosystem. I think before COVID or just pre-COVID, we were hearing stories about Meituan, Xiaomi, Huawei, their exponential growth, what Kuaishou and TikTok are doing there. And I actually wanted to understand more, although I admit that at that time my Mandarin was not the most proficient. I thought it was interesting. They're willing to take me on as a fully online member, but then everything had to be done in Mandarin Chinese. Every document, every the daily conversations were all conducted in Mandarin. So that was actually a big challenge because I had no at that time I would say that my confidence in Mandarin was not the highest. And hence And that role also involved actually talking to a lot of senior executives in China, senior investment members, and also senior founders. And so with rather poor grasp of Mandarin at that time, I still took the step to actually try to work it out. I just took the dive because I thought that this is already an excellent opportunity. If I don't force myself to learn Mandarin like this, that means I'm not really that committed to improving. And I do credit that short period of time as hugely significant to improving my Mandarin. I had to be very brave to do it because I was also at the risk of trying to make a fool of myself a little bit in front of these Chinese people, although they did appreciate that I at least tried to converse with them in Mandarin rather than trying to switch between Chinese and English. They don't actually like it a lot. So they appreciate the effort as long as you're not really speaking too off tangent. And I had a great time learning about the Chinese ecosystem there. And as an engineering student that was also working in a networking role for the first time, that helped me to eventually want to improve it, want to make it better. And I wouldn't say I improved massively from that. Even at the start, I was also still a little bit awkward. But I think overall, that was the first seed of being brave in terms of being a networker. And I think that grew from working there, going to NAV, and then actually working on a side project that I could share is also coincidentally called Seeds, which is a platform that I want to create in order to help people better navigate the fragmented ecosystem with more of a focus on business angels and family offices. The main issue is that, especially from doing work with NAV, business angels are actually not always the easiest to find. We don't even have to talk about the family offices. But the fact remains that most people still have their need to find the information, but it's not really well structured. There's also many databases and lists which just only give you a very blank information with no curation done, no contextualization. It's like when you do receive a cold contact right from someone, I think the first thing you might do is, I don't know, maybe you could tell me what's the first thing you might do if you receive a cold contact.
It's in somebody reaches out to me out of a sudden.
Maybe I want to refer someone to you. What might you ask me first before you accept meeting him for coffee?
This person, what do they want?
I see. That's also definitely good. For me, I have one question that I always give back to them. Can I have their LinkedIn first? And the first thing I do on LinkedIn is to check their mutual connections. Because from the mutual connections, I can get a rough idea of who they interact with, what is their interest, or who are they roughly working with. I can get a bare idea of how, if I meet with them, where the conversation might end up to and what he might be looking for, just from mutual connections. And I think that this layer is actually fairly important. It's very different from me giving you a list, because this list suddenly has a little bit more context to act upon. And that's why I think that, especially in the culture in Southeast Asia, where warm introductions are actually much preferred, this is something that we need to actually try to improve upon to help people better connect, better navigate the landscape. It's not so much anyone can outreach, anyone can go on LinkedIn to get connected now. This is actually pretty easy. And people have also started working up to networking. But I think the main thing is that where people see in the American ecosystem, co-introduction is being predominant. It works there. It's perfectly fine. But here it's a different mindset, right? The business angels here are of a different kind, more traditional, and there's always been a main culture here. So we have to work with what Southeast Asia wants. And this is what I want to try to do. This actually comes back to what NAV is. NAV is a matchmaking platform just to provide information. Now I want to take it further and provide information for everyone in Southeast Asia, particularly for the business angels. And if we can do that, then I think that's something that's a pretty good value added tool that I have developed.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. So I'd like to, sorry, I heard, pause a moment. Are you clicking something like an airport case or something?
Sorry, yeah, I was actually just cracking my...
Yeah, there's a few times I heard it cracking your hands. Yeah, okay. So let's resume. Yeah. Thank you, Sean. I'd like to summarize the 3 big takeaways I got from this conversation. First of all, thanks for sharing about the NUS Alumni Ventures, about how the community came into being and the kind of events and companies that it's going after. Secondly, thanks for sharing about the NUS ecosystem from Block 71, all the way to the NOC program for founders. And lastly, thanks for sharing about your own personal experience and how your background as an engineer links to your venture capital investing journey. On that note, thank you so much, Sean, for sharing your experience.
Yes, no, I thank you for the opportunity for me to talk about it. Always happy to help inspire someone young. And I hope that many young people like me will actually see the value of networking, or at least maybe trying to do something related with communities, because I believe it can be a real leveler. I only graduated in 2021. And now it's 2024, 3 years later. And I think that the best decision I did was to actually join NEV, to be very honest, because I did not expect much from it, but it has given me so much more than I could have hoped for. And while I wouldn't say that you must have a very focused objective on when you want to build a community, I think the best thing to do is just be genuine, just enjoy the process. And when you do enjoy it, the outcomes will fall naturally. I want to actually let the young people know that it's not always about internship stackings, but sometimes I think it's better to just have communities, build with them, and it will be a far more rewarding journey later on.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.